Okay, Donna is here, so we can start. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the December 2025 edition of the now what we call the management meeting. It's not just the manager's meeting anymore because I like to involve others on the management team to present and share information with the members. Jake is going to lead us off this morning with a couple of items of information for everybody. But before we get started, I just wanted to express my appreciation personally and for the entire management team for the generosity and kindness of the membership, of the donations that you made for Christmas gifts for all of our staff, as well as the Morrison team. It was really overwhelming, the generosity of members. We're so appreciative. The kindness that comes through in doing that to share with each of us on the team in appreciation, I'm sure, of the work that we do during the entire year and just for what nice people we are. But no, we're very appreciative, and we just want to say thank you to everyone who made donations and for the work of the team. I don't know what you call your team, Rich, that took all of those in and recorded everything and added everything up. But there was a team, you had a team of about 8 people or so, something like that did all of that work, and we as the management team were just the recipients of your kindness. So once again, thank you for that. How are we doing? Oh, there we are. Okay. I don't know what that was. The bulk of the meeting today is going to be talking about the budget. I'm going to be going through it in some detail and taking questions. But before we get started on that and some other updates and announcements that I have, I'm going to ask Jake to come up here and share some information that he has.
Good afternoon, everybody. I will attempt to be brief because I'm sure you're ready for this stimulating presentation. I hope everybody's doing well, and I'll echo Mitch's thanks. Thanks so much for your donations to the gift fund. I know many of our staff were so appreciative and so taken aback by the generosity. So again, thank you so much. You know, this time of year is, can be challenging with all of the obligations of gifts. So thank you so much for thinking of us and giving us a gift. We really appreciate that. So I just have a couple of announcements, just kind of housekeeping items. So one thing, the Comcast thing is coming up in January. If you were not able to make your assigned time, assigned day, no big deal. Just please let me know so I can put you on the reschedule list. Just to clarify one more time, your family or someone you assign can be there. Other members are not allowed to be there. It needs to be someone that's a family member. If you can't be there, that can be accountable for the items in your unit, accountable for everything. So just to clarify, we don't want other members sitting for other members. We either want the member or their family to be there during the review of the equipment. And in full transparency, many members here may not need any work done, may not need any equipment changed. It may be a very quick look, your items are good, and they may move on very quickly. Some people may need equipment changed out. It just depends on what they see. I do have a meeting coming up with them to go over more, so I'll have more details to share via email and via other electronic communications, and I probably will send out one more paper announcement. I know people like those, to just give you one more final update on how it's going to go in January for Comcast. Okay, very quickly, the next item I wanted to touch on, The resident photo and paper directory is going to come out in February, probably towards the end of February. So we are working through that, making a few changes, but nothing too significant. So that'll be coming out in February for members to have. We are only going to be printing just the number directory for folks. The photo directory will be available for people on the portal and in front of the office, and we will of course give a copy to our friends in archives so they can have that record of photos and different things to keep for future generations that come to live at 7500 York. Another administrative announcement is UDIA no longer works here. So just kind of made some changes there. We have hired someone else. Her name is Holly Thomas. She will be starting on January 12th. I am working on a little biography of her, and so she will be starting that week, so be sure you give her a little hell when she starts on that Monday. Make sure you baptize her by fire. Go ahead.
You said help, right?
Holly Thomas.
No, you said help. Give her a little help.
Oh, yeah, give her a little help. Sorry, excuse me, I confused the word. Just kidding. No, give her a nice 7500 York welcome. She's very excited to come here. Just so you know, she is an epidemiologist by trade. So she used to work for the Minnesota Department of Health. She did a lot of contact tracing, a lot of work with that. So she's very familiar with computers and computer systems. So I think she'll be a good addition to the team. So very excited to have her starting very shortly. So thank you so much for welcoming her, as I'm sure you will, because you're a welcoming bunch. Okay, I can't think of anything else that I wanted to just update you on. Thank you so much for your indulgence, and I'll let you get back to the presentation. Have fun.
Thank you, Jake.
I did forget one thing. Sorry. I did forget one thing, the most important thing. The 8th floor has won the File of Life Challenge. You all are receiving 2 cookies and a gift card to the York Room. So, congratulations. Good job. I still would like people to keep doing File of Life. It's so important to do that. It's a great tool. I've had it at multiple buildings, not just even cooperatives, at HOAs that have it. So I really encourage people to still go get your File of Life from Annie. Thank you.
I did have a File of Life up here to remind me to say what I didn't have the announcement of the winner, but is there anybody here other than Lila that hasn't picked up their File of Life yet? Raise your hand. Be sure and pick up your File of Life from Annie in the office. She'll be in tomorrow. She's in Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. So thank you. Very important here. Just joking, Lila. I don't often do that. All right. Well, we are going to get into the budget here in just a little bit, but I think so that we don't run out of time on the backside, let me run through some other announcements that we have or that I have for you, not pertaining to the budget itself. The waterproofing project, and I'm not sure if this is a different update than I gave last time, but I think the privacy fences had not been completed at the time of the November management meeting. All of the privacy fences are up over there. So the fence around the patio for Unit 142, around the ugly transformer over there, and the generator that is now outside rather than inside the building. Those are now enclosed by privacy fences. So the only 2 things, significant things left to do are to put in the metal flashing around the base of the wall out there. My understanding is that is being fabricated. And then I just got a message today about the stairs. The stairs have been mostly fabricated at this point, and then they have to go in for some application and painting, and then I was told the schedule for that, and let's all cross our fingers that there's no snow before the second week of January. So that is supposedly when that's going in. Those things are not cold weather or warm weather dependent, but if we had 8 feet of snow out there, it might be difficult to get the stairs in. But they are going in, as well as that flashing. We're coming to the very end of that project. The lobby and balcony project is moving along as well. The Lab 23 committee is coming to the end of the design phase, and they are moving into the construction documents phase, to my understanding, in, I believe, January, next month. Boiler replacement. There was a presentation done by Michael Ordorf, as well as an engineer from Encompass Engineering, that put together the whole package to be presented, and they were responsible as well for the request for proposal that went out to contractors to make bids. The request for proposal went out to 5 contractors. 3 of them chose to make bids, so we did have 3 competing bids. There was one clear winner or favorite as far as we were concerned with management, and that was presented to the property committee, the finance committee, and the board of directors. And ultimately, out of the series of those meetings, the board did approve Corporate Mechanical to be the contractor to do the replacement of the boilers, which will happen in the spring. I am still waiting on the contract from Corporate Mechanical for that. They're running it through their legal process. When I get it, it'll run through our legal process with our legal advisors. And at that time, when we get a contract that's recommended by our legal team or our lawyers that we work with, they're not ours, then that contract will come before the board of directors for final approval there. Any questions on any of those few things? Waterproofing, Lab 23, renovation of the lobby and balcony, boiler replacement. All right, very good. Garage cleaning. You have not heard about this before.
April 28th and 30th.
This is like Jeopardy. I got the answer to the question before. What is garage cleaner? Well, yes, the dates for the garage floor cleaning is April 28 and 30. All cars must be removed. If you are a snowbird or going to be a snowbird, going to be gone, you know somebody who's a snowbird, everybody needs to get their cars out of the garage for that. Otherwise, there will be a fine approved by the board of directors of $100 assessed to any members that don't get them out. And we don't want a dime of anybody's money. Okay, the exterior facade repairs or replacement, that rough order of magnitude project is still going on, also with Encompass Engineering, and we are expecting a report back from them in the next next month and a half or so. So just a lot of information that we're awaiting to have some determination of what repairs or what replacements might be needed on the exterior facade. At this point, we don't know. At this point, we do have some suspicion because of other work that's been done on the exterior brick facade. But we need something that is coming from a company that's experienced in in doing this sort of work before any determination is made. Just to reference the communications that have been coming out from me on one call, on 990, about the drone that's been flying around the building again this morning. Who saw the drone today? Anybody? It was around the west side of, well, the south end of the west wing, and then around the courtyard here, the south courtyard, if you will. And they're just flying that drone around the entire building, top to bottom, taking pictures, taking video, so they can use that in their assessment of the rough order of magnitude. Okay. Replacement of chilled water pumps. This is something that members don't hear all that much about. It's a project that started a couple of months ago, and it is the pumps that pump the chilled water through the building for the air conditioning. And so we waited until it was no longer cooling season to do that, so that we wouldn't run into any issues. Good that we waited until it was no longer cooling season, because when they started putting everything together, it's a lot of big, heavy parts for that, and they got to one of the parts and found out that the wrong parts had been delivered and needed to be reordered. So they're just waiting for the parts to come in that are the correct parts to put in down there. Otherwise, if we hadn't waited until the end of summer or the end of fall, middle of fall, we might have been without air conditioning for quite some time. That would have not been a good deal. Any questions on any of those last items? Okay. York Room has a buffet on Sunday. If you haven't made reservations for that and you would like to avail of the buffet, this is the buffet that happens once a month on a Sunday. And I always hear really good feedback. I see the menu, so if you want to participate, eat in the restaurant on Sunday, I believe that's between 11 and 2. Be sure and make your reservations with Amanda. There's also a buffet on Christmas Day, so make your reservations for that as well if you plan to be around the cooperative here on Christmas Day. And they are also offering carry-out boxes for if you want at the end of that buffet. I believe it's the last half hour that you can get those, and you can eat that on Friday, if you will, the day after Christmas, since the restaurant is also closed on the Friday after Christmas. In the process of sending out emails with updates, with information, reminders, I see a report that shows me how many members are registered to get those emails. And every once in a while, those numbers start to go down. And I am hopeful that maybe it's just because members are moving out of the building or something, and they're getting off, and it's not just members that are getting tired or annoyed with receiving my emails. But if you are taking yourselves off, because you have the option to do that, I think just by clicking on a link, you can remove yourself. I encourage you not to do that. I encourage everybody to be registered to get the information that we put out from the management team through emails. We use a MailChimp program for that, or app. We use OneCall. I think everybody's familiar with OneCall. So it's really important to stay registered with your information in the office and do not opt out of those. Otherwise, in the case of a drone flying around the building, you might have your windows, you might have your shades or your curtains wide open when there's a drone outside your window taking pictures inside. We want you to get the information to keep your blinds or your curtains closed, or whatever the situation might be, whether it has to do with water shutoffs or anything like that. Make sure that you're keeping your telephone number, your email address registered so that we can continue to provide good communication. I also want to let members know, because there are so many requests coming into the office for Jake. Jake's title here is Director of Administration and Technology. The technology part of that means the technology for the building. It doesn't mean members' personal technology with their cell phones, with their laptops, with their computers, with their televisions, with their cable TV. And since my office is right next to Jake's office, I hear regular calls and see regular visitors back to Jake's office asking assistance to help with the technology, your own personal technology of your devices. I'm asking the members not to request Jake. There are lots of services available outside of the cooperative. Maybe there are members within the cooperative that could assist members, but it takes a lot of Jake's time to assist members with their telephones, their laptops, their personal computers, their televisions, their cable setup. So please do not come to the office or call or email Jake for personal technology assistance. Any questions about that? All right, a couple of other informational things. The unit inventory is still progressing. I've received questions or concerns about additional work needing to be done. Right now we're in the middle of the appliance phase of that and making sure that everything in the system is correct with that we're paying extra for that. We're not paying anything extra for that. We paid a package fee to have the inventory done from beginning until end, and from the beginning to the end, and we are sort of in the middle of that whole process. So don't be concerned that we're having to pay Belay Software additional funds to continue this process. Also want to let the members know that the board and I, along with another one of our lawyers that we work with, will be working to update the occupancy agreement that started at least 4 years ago. I think it was in 2021. I know about a year or a year and a half before I started that the board at that time was working with the lawyer to update the occupancy agreement as well as other governing documents. The other governing documents, bylaws, articles of incorporation, those were finished earlier this year or last year, but the occupancy agreement hasn't been done yet. So I will be working with the board and legal counsel on getting that done as well. So more information to come on that. Any questions on those last items there? Okay, so let's jump into the budget. We can talk about Elevator 5. We are waiting for a part to come in.
Is it going to be another 6 weeks at least, like the last one?
I sure hope not. Michael continues to follow up with that, but we are at the disposal of the parts being available and being shipped to us from the supplier. I know that's frustrating. It's frustrating for us as well. We don't want it to be frustrating. We don't want one of the elevators to be down. But there isn't really anything that we can do to make it go faster. We follow up. Michael follows up. And I appreciate your question for that. Any other questions? All right, so let's jump into the budget here. The budgeting process, you've seen this little chart before. I've added something to it here. The budget process isn't something that just happens during a few months of the year from like August to September, October. The budget is done. The budget was approved at the end of November by the Board of Directors. There was a board report that brought information to the members that participated in that, also at the end of November. And for me, the budget process for 2027 starts very early in 2026. There's a lot to consider. So it starts with management. It starts with me. I'm the one who coordinates everything, organizes everything, pulls everything together, communicates, and works with different entities here at the cooperative and outside of the cooperative. I work with committees. I want input from people other than staff, other than my accounting department, other than vendors, other than just some of the historical numbers of financial reports that we look at or prior years' budgets. So I like to get information, recommendations, requests from committees. What do you need to work with? And then this year, it was new to have what I refer to as a budget oversight group. It is a group that was recommended to work with me from one of the board members, and that group included 3 board members and the chair of property and the chair of finance. And I met with them fairly regularly, I think 5 times through the whole process, to keep them up to date, give them the opportunity to be informed and to ask any questions along the way. And also when the draft, or what I would consider the final draft of the budget, is done, then it goes to the Finance Committee for their review, their consideration, their questions, their perhaps proposals to see if they want to make any adjustments to the board. Once they are satisfied with where the draft of the budget is at, then it goes to the Board of Directors on a recommendation from the Finance Committee. And the Board of Directors ultimately is the body, the governing authority here at the cooperative, to then further review the budget, to ask questions, to scrutinize, to inquire, and also with the opportunity to make adjustments to the budget if they wish. Now, it sounds, I may have made it sound like I only met with the Finance Committee once, or presented it to them once, or presented it to the board just once. I think the Finance Committee, I think I saw Bob is here. I think I ran through the budget with the Finance Committee at least 3 times, maybe 4, could have been 5, with the board at least 4 times, maybe 5 times just with the board. And that's in addition to the at least 5 times I think that I presented it and ran through it with the Budget Oversight Committee. A lot of work, a lot of meetings, a lot of communication. And finally, it goes to the 7,500 York membership. initially at the board report last at the end of November and now today. There's a lot of considerations that go into putting a budget together. Things having to do with contracts, current costs of materials and labor, limited contracts versus long-term contracts. We may have contracts just for single projects. We may have contracts that cover a whole year or a series of years. There are bid requirements that we have to meet. There are fixed costs in the budget as opposed to discretionary costs, and those that are what I would call semi-fixed cost or semi-discretionary costs. There are different ways to look at the expenses in the budget. And then there are the members' expectations. I put together the numbers of what I know or we know from staff and working with vendors and committees and board that it takes to run the cooperative. Keep it functioning well, keep it functioning safely, keeping it functioning into the future by having necessary savings. But there are also members' expectations. Probably most of you moved here because of amenities that were also offered. In addition to the physical structure or the units that you live in, there is bus service and there's a restaurant and there's the CAC with all kinds of presentations and music and speakers. There's a salon that we have here. There's all kinds of member expectations that you would have learned about either during a tour or during some conversation perhaps with our marketing team or other members that you might have known before you lived here. So there are things with all of those sorts of things to budget for as well. There are governing document requirements, and then certainly we want to limit liability, increase safety, and protect the asset of the building, the assets in each of your units, and so forth. The expenses for 2026 are up here. It's not in really large font, but hopefully you can see it, but I'll just run down the list quickly. But the total expenses in the operating budget for 2026, $9,553,000. Housekeeping laundry, $17,000. The budget for the York Room, $972,000, which is also offset by revenue that is budgeted of an equal amount of $972,000. Maintenance, $1.1 million. Marketing, $19,000 plus. Transportation, it's primarily the bus, the van, $14,500. Administration, $365,000. Taxes and insurance, $851,000. Utilities, $826,000. Employee salaries, taxes, benefits. Now, that's not employees of the cooperative, it's employees of the management team, $2,224,000. Non-operating expenses, so those are things that have to do with the cooperative's mortgage debt, as well as money that gets deposited towards your general operating reserve, as well as your replacement reserves. And we'll get more detail on each of those sections as we go through here. So the York Room, these are all of the different general ledger accounts for the York Room. And I've highlighted in yellow what the biggest expenses are when it comes to the York Room. Labor, $613,000. Their food costs, almost $202,000 is being budgeted. And then contracted services, that is our contract, the cooperative's contract with Morrison to have their team here to run the restaurant. And of course, that includes their profit because they are a for-profit business. Housekeeping and laundry, $17,000. Most of that is for supplies. Purchase services would be the mats that are replaced around the building, the entrance mats to keep the carpet clean. Maintenance, a lot of different general ledger accounts for maintenance. I have highlighted the biggest numbers again, grounds maintenance. And that is $113,000. Maintenance supplies, $90,000. Refurbishing of the units, almost $89,000. Building repair and maintenance, $157,000. And HVAC, that's heating, venting, and air conditioning, repair and maintenance, $212,000 plus. But there's a lot of other big numbers there for electrical, plumbing, security, waste removal, grounds contract. Grounds contract is the snow removal, the care of the lawn, elevator maintenance. So a lot of different things. Unit repair and maintenance, those are just things where our team has to get in and do repairs that aren't included in any of these other categories. So let me just stop there for a second. And does anybody have any questions about this or any of the other information that has been provided? Could we get a microphone over here so that those on 990 can hear as well?
I can't run, sorry. No running allowed.
Thank you. On the, I might have missed the HVAC and repair maintenance. Was the elevator maintenance included in that?
No, there's a separate, I've got a handy dandy little thing here. There's a separate line item for elevator maintenance right here.
I'm looking, I don't.
Right here. And most of that is
Oh, okay.
our
Okay.
contract that we have with our elevator contractor to do the regular maintenance on it.
Now, is in terms of the elevator, is the life cycle of the elevators all the same for 6 elevators, or are they different? Do they vary?
Well, they are all the same elevators, so they would have relatively the same life expectancy. But what I would say about elevators is you generally don't get to a point and then you just replace the entire elevator. You do maintenance through the years and you replace parts as needed. And so there are major parts to elevators. There's the cab itself. There is the whole pulley system. If you remember elevator 5 being down for a matter of weeks, a couple of months back or a few months back, it was the sheave. The sheave is like the pulley system that sits up at the very top at the roof level that has the cable that runs around it and lifts it up and down. So there are major parts to it. Those major parts are provided for in the reserves. So when we had to replace that sheave, that did not come out of the operating budget. That came out of the reserve accounts that the cooperative has.
And I guess I'm wondering, in terms of the elevator that seems to be down, that also seems to be the elevator used by the food service.
It is.
Is that an issue?
Well, it's certainly an issue. It's more of an inconvenience. It's an inconvenience for everybody, especially that lives on the west side of the building, and it is more of an inconvenience for the York room staff because they have to go through the other elevator, which they don't have access to through the kitchen. So elevator 5 opens up into the kitchen, whereas elevator 4 does not.
I guess what I'm wondering is the life cycle of that elevator considered different than the life cycle of the other 5 elevators?
I would say no, but it does have additional, it's bigger and it has an additional door. So there would be additional cost in maintaining that and replacing some parts because it's bigger and has those additional parts. Thank you. Any other questions? There's one over here.
Yeah. Lila, was yours answered? I'm coming. Slow, surely.
Hello, okay.
I-
Under the culinary services, where it talks about culinary services revenue, is that the money that the membership puts in?
Well, we haven't gotten to the revenue yet. We're on the expense side yet, but when we do, I'll answer that question.
Okay.
Yes, Lila.
I'm just curious, since we got new windows, did our heating and air conditioning show any improvement?
It's hard to say because at the same time, well, shortly after we had the windows replaced, we also replaced the rooftop units. And so that had an impact on how much gas usage we had. So it's hard to say for sure how much of an impact that had. Yes.
For the refurbishing units, when we move in, we pay for any changes and upgrades that we want and need. So what later then goes into the refurbishing amount of the $38,880?
There are electrical things that are done. There is plumbing stuff that is done. There is stuff done with thermostats. There is I have a whole spreadsheet of all of those costs. We really dialed in on that this year. But it is aside from any of the upgrades or betterments that members might do. It's keeping the units not upgraded, but up to date with things that need to be replaced, essentially. Okay. Any more specific questions about that? I will entertain at the end. I don't want to run out of time here. And it's not that I want to avoid questions. I love questions, but there's a lot of material to go through here. Marketing, $19,500 for 2026. Transportation, $14,500. And then administration. The biggest numbers here are management fees, so that is the contract that 7500 York has with Ebenezer. Service charges and late fees, that's a bit of a misnomer. We don't have late fees, but there are investment and banking fees. So I think as most members know, the cooperative has several $1 million in various reserves, whether it is the replacement reserves, the general operating reserve, and most of those funds, and also the wait list funds that we hold. And there are fees that are associated. I was going to say, let me backtrack there. Most of those fees are invested. They're invested in different ways, but the bulk of them that are invested for the replacement reserve that is handled by an investment company or investment team, and they charge an investment fee. It's a percentage of the investments that the cooperative has. And so it's about $45,000 a year that the cooperative pays to this investment firm to manage all of those investments. And then the next largest one is committee expense and grants awarded. I ran out of lines there. The committee expense is actually about $55,000, and then the cooperative applied for and it was approved for grants, and that is a refundable thing of, so on the budget, it shows up as a negative amount that brought that down. But anyway, those are the largest amounts under administration. Utilities, a lot of big numbers with utilities. Cable TV, and that also includes your internet. We have a new contract for that. Electricity, natural gas, water and sewer, those are the largest ones there. Taxes and insurance, the largest numbers there in that section is property insurance, and that went up quite a bit this year. And real estate, that has always been a large number, and that went up, I think, less than 3% this year. We don't have the final number. We have the estimated number on real estate tax, property tax, but we don't have the final number. We don't get that until March. And then salaries, taxes, and benefits, the largest number there is for salaries, and the next largest number is for benefits, health benefits, and dental benefits, life insurance. And then the last section, and it's actually in the operating budget, but it is non-operating expenses and has to do with the cooperative's mortgage debt, mortgage interest of $527,000, mortgage principal payments in 2026 of $345,000, and replacement reserve deposits of $2,241,000. Those are all big numbers. So let me pause right there, and I just want to say a bit about replacement reserve deposits. The cooperative has been working, even before I came, with reserve advisors and working diligently, I would say, to increase replacement reserve deposits and to try and make sure that going forward, the cooperative's replacement reserves are adequate to handle all of the replacements of replacement components, we'll call them, throughout the building, whether they are in your units. It's one of the reasons we had the inventory done, or around the entire property. So if you're sitting on it, looking at it, walking on it, using it, it is quite possibly a replacement component of the building. It's all the large ticket items that the cooperative needs to spend for anywhere from this coming year to out 30 years. In the same way that you as individuals or as a family, a single person or a couple would save towards your retirement for the expenses that you would have in your retirement to live, the cooperative saves for the same type of purpose, not all the way out at retirement, but we'll call it the retirement of replacement components. When things get used up and they need to be replaced, they're no longer functional. Rooftop units, boilers, water heaters, fan coils, a refurbishing of the lobby and balcony, all of those components. Equipment in the kitchen, equipment in the boiler room. All of those sorts of things are replacement components, and the cooperative needs to be saving all the time for those sorts of things. I see it as probably my most important responsibility here at the cooperative is to help the cooperative, guide the cooperative, advise, assist the cooperative, as well as board's most important responsibility, or one of the board's most important responsibilities, is to make sure that the cooperative has the necessary funds going forward to pay for everything. It is a large responsibility. It's something that I take seriously. It's something that I would say is not always fun to attend to. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of numbers crunching. It takes a lot of evaluation. It takes assessing members an additional amount through your monthly fees to be able to accumulate these funds, to deposit into the cooperative's reserve savings. It's just a very important function. I want to especially commend the Finance Committee this year, who really took that on. I talk a lot about it, the reserves, and the board as well, to make sure through this budgeting process that without overwhelming the members more than was necessary, a 10.5% increase in member fees is not a small increase. I realize that. The Finance Committee does, the board does. But I want to commend the Finance Committee for decisions that they made and decisions that the board made to make sure that enough was going into reserves, to be responsible with that, and to keep the cooperative in a safe position. Any questions about that? It's a really serious matter. I'm not trying to be morose about it or anything, but I just want the cooperative members, you as members, co-owners, to understand the importance of reserves and how that comes into play with budgeting each year. While we get a microphone over here, I just want to say further that in determining what the cooperative needs for replacement reserves, I worked together with Michael Ordorf as well as George Sverdrup, the chair of the Property Committee, to review and review and review again the cooperative's reserve study, to update it, to make sure that the schedule of replacements was as reasonable and necessary as it could possibly be, and to be looking also at what the recommendation coming from reserve advisors was going to be for recommended deposits to the cooperative's reserves. So we have this big, multi-page, multi-line reserve study that shows what all the replacement components are, when they're scheduled, how much they are. And then that report tells us what it costs to do those replacements 5 years out or 10 years out or 20 years out. And I had to work with that a lot. It consumed a lot of my time, as well as our small group of working with the study, to be able to get a recommended reserve study update from the experts that reserve advisors are. Carol.
Yes, I don't have a question. I just know that when I first moved in here, I had trouble understanding what reserve meant. And I finally realized it's very similar to a savings account. Is that correct?
It's exactly what it is. It's a savings account to pay for, to replace the big projects, to replace the big components. One in the back there, Rich.
You probably already figured this out, but I know costs go up, so do you factor that in when you look at costs in the future for whatever we need? You know, for example, yeah, that's it.
Absolutely. And particularly with the reserve study, there is an inflation factor figured into that. And yes, so that does. So if there's any more questions on the expense side, I will handle those at the end if there's time, or after our time, but I want to get on to the revenue side. But in talking about reserves, adequate reserves are critically important. It ensures cooperative has funds available when replacements are done or large projects are needed. It is a hedge against the need to make a special assessment. So in the property management trade, your monthly fees are what we refer to as an annual assessment that you pay monthly. We want to avoid special assessments where you might get charged something extra to pay for a large project or a large replacement because a cooperative doesn't have the necessary reserves. We're trying to avoid that. So the total operating expenses, 6.3, almost 6.4 million. The non-operating expenses, 3,160,000. So total expenses, $9.553 million. And it kind of breaks out into a pie chart. I redid this pie chart from last year, and essentially nothing changed. There was one section that changed by 1%, and that was non-operating expenses. Last year it was 32%. This year it went up to 33%. And because I didn't put things out 2 decimal places, everything else remained the same. But the largest expenses, non-operating, and then the salaries, taxes, and benefits of the management staff. York Room falls after that, but that's totally matched by income from the York Room. Utilities at 9%, taxes and insurance at 9%. Maintenance is in there at 12% of the expenses. Income. So the total income almost totally matches the expenses, and that's $9,553,000. And it's broken down by member fees, $7.827 million, a 10.5% increase. Rental income, which is from York Gardens, from the salon, and from garage and lot parking, $466,000. Other fees from maintenance service orders or guest room and cot fees, a total of $73,000. The York Room, again, their revenue is matching their expenses. And the culinary service, where did he go? He left. The culinary service fee is referred to in the budget, but it's also resident dining room fees. That's the $115 a month that every member pays. That did not go up for 2026, but the culinary service fee is that in the budget here, resident dining room fees, total of $568,000 there, along with resident meals, guest meals, and then special meals and food sales. So that might be catering that the York Room does, or other sorts of special functions. So the total of all of these is $972,000. Does that answer your question? Okay, thank you. And then other fees and charges, resale fees, that is the 5% fee that is charged for selling members on their share. Second person charges, almost $82,000, and then other fees and charges, a little bit more than $10,000. So that is the total of the revenue. Any questions about revenue? Revenue has to match the expenses. It's a not-for-profit organization. Okay. Member fee increases. Over the years, you have seen this before. Just again pointing out that there were several years where the cooperative members did not have a fee increase, even though inflation or CPI went up. I looked at all of the CPI increases, the Consumer Price Index, which is an indicator of inflation. And even most of the years where there is an increase, the CPI increase was even larger. So member fee increases were not even keeping up in most cases with the CPI increase. I won't go into much detail about that, but if anybody likes getting into the weeds on things like that I do, please give me a call, stop by my office. I'd be happy to share those numbers with you. Again, for the 2026 budget, we're funding the reserves, we're investing in the building. Insurance costs are increasing moderately to even, I would say, more than moderately. The reason I say moderately here is I hear, in our property management circles with other cooperatives, their property insurance costs as a percentage are going up a lot more than 7,500 York's property insurance expenses are going up. And then we want to avoid deferring property maintenance. Now, let me be transparent about that. In the process of working with the reserve study and doing all of those reviews that I did several times, that I did 3 times with our group, Michael Ordorf and George, getting down towards the end and seeing very high recommendations for increasing deposits to reserves that really would not have been, I don't know if sustainable is the right word, but would not have, it would have been too heavy of an increase on member fees. So we went through the reserve study again at the end after we had received it back already with the update, and having been given some advice by our reserve advisor's advisor of what things we could possibly push back in the schedule of replacements a little bit. We did defer some things, but the things that we did defer are things not critical to the function or the aesthetics of the building. So never at any point would I consider deferring maintenance or work that would result negatively in the function of the building or result negatively in the critical aesthetics of the building. But we did look and we found, I think it was 8 to 10 different areas where we pushed some things back in the schedule by a year, 2 years, 3 years, to relieve a little pressure on deposits to reserves. I kept these same quotes in here from last year just because I like them. And I like George Washington, and I have no idea who Lisa is. But George Washington says we must consult our means rather than our wishes. And from Lisa Conway Hughes, the most important key to budgeting is that it needs to be honest. Not what you think it should be or wish it could be, but what it really is. And I will tell you that's where I come from in budgeting. I try to be honest. I try to be upfront. I am honest. I am upfront. I don't just try. I am transparent about it. You are co-owners, co-members here, and it's important that you have this information. With the schedule of fee increases that came out and a synopsis of the budget, there was information there that you could get a more expounded summary budget. It's available in the office. I don't know if too many people have come in and picked one of those up, but they are just inside the office on the rack on the wall across from the receptionist desk. That is the end of my presentation on the budget. I would like to take perhaps another question or two. I know we're off of 990 soon. I will hang around after to take any further questions as well. Anybody?
Over here. Does the insurance increase for co-ops generally match the insurance increase for other common interest communities?
I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that.
Thank you.
I will say that one benefit that this cooperative has when it comes to the cooperative has several different kinds of insurance, but when it comes to property insurance, this cooperative has something going to it that almost no other cooperatives have. And we have a brick facade and we have a gravel flat roof. We don't have siding that can fly off, and we don't have a roof that can fly off.
Percentage-wise, what goes to the reserve, what goes to other expenses for increases? The 10.5 is the overall increase. What percentage just goes to the reserve?
How much did the reserves increase? Are you?
What percentage of our increase goes to the reserve?
Oh boy, I don't have that off the top of my head. I could certainly come up with that number if I sat down in front of my adding machine or my calculator. I will say that the reserves last year, the deposits to reserves was $1,777,000. The deposits this year to reserves $2,241,000, but the percentage of your fee that goes to that, I'd have to be in front of a calculator to get that. Any other questions? Yes, Laura.
Okay, well, you know what I'm going to say.
I sure do.
All right, my ongoing concern is that given the increased cost in funding the reserve plan, which I totally support, we got to keep the building, that's not a problem for me. Either our yearly increase or monthly dues will go up significantly, as they are this year and last year, or we make some choices about how we spend our money. This is not your issue, this is a board issue. I think we need to look seriously at some of what we think are necessary, maybe they are for some of us, but the amenities that we fund here. And I would urge the board to seriously think about this, or I'm afraid for the next few years, we're going to keep hearing what we're hearing this year, is we've got to fund the reserves, and our monthly fees are going to go up significantly to do that.
Thank you. It's a very good observation. Certainly, this cooperative and any cooperative does have those types of choices to make. I will say that when I was coming near the end of my putting together of the budget, I assisted the Finance Committee and the board in identifying in the operating budget what is discretionary spending and what is not discretionary spending, to help myself out more than anything else, because when I spend months putting together a budget, I get a little irritable when anybody wants to make changes to it. But that is certainly the prerogative of the Finance Committee to recommend and the board to decide. But to assist the Finance Committee and the board, I identified throughout the entire operating budget what items were discretionary to help them if they wanted or needed to make cuts to any spending, that they could clearly see where discretionary spending is. And again, I will be transparent. I did not identify the York Room. I did not identify the bus, and I did not identify the security services provided to the cooperative. But I also would want to let you know that when it got to the board did choose to make a few small cuts. Some members may be affected by these couple of cuts, really only two that's affecting members, maybe three. One is the free birthday dinners that have been a part of the budget in years past. Those are no longer a part of the budget. So starting in January of 2026, members can no longer avail of a free birthday dinner in the York Room.
Was that a big savings?
I would have to look. It's a savings of $6,000, something like that. Not a huge savings, but not a small savings. The board also opted to have only one window washing for the exterior of the cooperative in 2026 as opposed to having two. And that was a savings of about $8,400, something like that.
And we put it in reserves.
Yes, and those savings went to reserves. Bob.
I have 2 points I would like to make. The first is the Finance Committee sees as one of its roles is to represent the membership in financial decision making. And the second thing I would say is Mitch has done a marvelous job of constructing a process for arriving at a budget. As you can see, it's very complicated, but he's improved it with this additional review committee of 5 or 6 of us. It is a horribly big job, and it suggested by, he's going to get started on this. I don't know if he's going to do it in January, but it's certainly going to be February. And at any rate, I would ask you to give us, give Mitch a thank you hand for his work on the budget. Very challenging, I think an interesting, challenging, because it's so important, but I think he does us a great service. Let's.
I just think we have to keep in mind that people have moved here for some of the amenities and the safety of the place, that we have to be careful taking those things away. I know we need to keep saving money, and our building is apparently behind time, so I understand why we need all that. But how do the cooperative people have some say if you're going to remove some of our amenities, which amenity would be removed?
It's
Do we have a say in that?
It's a very good question, and you would want to address those questions to the board of directors. I am not ever in charge of eliminating any amenities. I work with what the cooperative needs to run and what the cooperative members want as a part of their living experience here. So currently, that includes the big amenities of the York Room and the van service and having 24/7 security, having all the RAC committee activities. It includes all of those things. So as I said early on in my presentation, I consider member desires, member wants in putting together the budget. If anybody has concerns about whether you want amenities in or out of the cooperative experience, that should be addressed to the board of directors. And I would therefore, getting communication from the board of directors, budget according to that. Wait for the mic there, please. So, are we still on 990? Okay.
I'm asking to be a profit. We have 2.3 million in reserve. We replaced the boilers, replaced air conditioning, we've done the windows. Do you have any idea why we have such future concerns as this building gets aged?
Oh, sure. The entire reserve study is filled with, I don't know if concerns is the right, but plans. It is the future plan for the building of what it is necessary to replace. And the reserve study is available on the member portal. And if you look at it, a lot, you know, if you're not familiar with all of those things, you're going to look line by line. What's this? What's this? A lot of it is just the inner guts and workings of, you know, the building systems and mechanicals and those sorts of things. But my concern would be is if we weren't attending to doing replacements. But the cooperative is responsibly attending to doing replacements.
So just look it up on the 990 and look what your reserve you're going to potentially address in the future?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
Thank you.
Feel free to give me a call, make an appointment to come by, and I'll walk through it with you. Happy to do that for anybody. Okay. Hello out there, 990. Anybody else? Let's get it on the mic so 990 can hear.
Has there been any comparison to other cooperatives that Ebenezer runs?
Have
would
I
be
done any
similar.
comparison? I have not done any comparison.
Has and
the-
Ebenezer done anything like that? They've got quite a few, cooperative type entities that they manage or are involved with, I think.
I will tell you who does a comparison, and that is the Cooperative Foundation. Cooperative Foundation. They get information from a lot of different cooperatives, not just Ebenezer-managed cooperatives, to see what everybody's spending on different things.
And who runs that cooperative operation?
Dennis Johnson.
Okay.
Anybody else? Well, thank you very much for coming in today. I appreciate all of your questions. I will hang around here for a little bit after if anybody has any other questions. Otherwise, feel free to give me a call or send me an email to make an appointment. It's best not just to pop in because I might be busy with something else. But if I know you're coming, I'd be happy to see you and prepare for that. Have a good afternoon, everybody.